So this is dessert.
This is dessert, yes. So you see I've got some apples here. So this is my sister's favourite dessert from our childhood. And we gather that it's a dish that our mother made up because we've never been able to find a recipe for it. And it's called Snowy Mountain Apple.
Oh, yeah. Can I help with anything?
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare the apples. Could I ask you just to chop the pecan nuts for me? Just into small,
Right.
And I'll make a start here. So what I'm actually going to do, Catherine, is I'm actually going to core the apples all the way down to the bottom. The filling that I'm actually going to put in is a variation of our mum's. So I'm putting in some golden raisins and some pecans and some sugar.
What would your mum think of that now?
Well, it's 2019. I hope she'll be okay. She used to give us in the 60s, in this apple dish, she would give us a crab apple jelly, which she probably had made. But I'm afraid to say I don't make crab apple jelly, even though I have crab apple trees, but I find it just too time consuming. So she would have put crab apple jelly into it.
Did you grow up in the era then when the chair got turned upside down? And
absolutely,
me too.
and the muslin and
the apple compote and the juice dripping through, left overnight. The kitchen smelled of apples for about a week after.
For about a week after. So I thought she was great to do it, and I do make my own chutney, and sometimes I make jam, but I've never reached the crab apple jelly. So that would have been what we would have had in the apple. So I suppose you could put anything into it.
This sounds gorgeous though, and it's quite healthy then.
It is quite healthy. So if I do this correctly, sometimes these apples are actually quite big. Sometimes you can actually push you can push it right the way through.
So you just cut through both ends?
I kind of cut through both ends. I sort of have a little square and I try and line it up so that I'm in the right place. But it does depend on the apple. So I'm actually using Bramley apples. I'm using cooking apples.
They'll hold their shape nicely.
And they hold their shape nicely, yes. There we are.
Job well done.
That's one there. And I'll just do this one here. That's lovely, and that'll go into my compost later. Now, so I have my apples here, and then I have a dish, which I always have a little bit of water in the bottom. That was a little tip that I learnt. Put a little bit of water in the bottom, and it stops the apples from exploding. Now, so what I'm going to do is...
Are they okay for you?
They're lovely. I'm going to put them on top, so I'm going to put my golden raisins in first. So I suppose you can put as many of these in as you want.
And this is Jan's favourite dessert of all time.
This is Jan's favourite dessert. So Jan and our mum weren't big dessert people. My father and I shared a love of desserts. But this is Jan's favourite dessert because she's not a desserty person.
I am watching you intently because of that. I'm afraid to put a foot wrong recreating this. Okay.
And then I just take my nuts. And
so it's just a little tip of sugar
just
goes
a
in.
tiny little bit of tip of sugar, because there's enough sugar really in the apple, and then you have your sugar in the raisins. But look, I suppose it could just be to taste. And then a little bit of the pecan, or as she says, pecan. And then this just goes into the oven. I bake this at about maybe 160, 170 degrees maybe, because they're quite large, for about 20 minutes. Just keep a little eye on them so they don't explode.
So for the meringue?
Yes, so for the meringue now to go on top of the apple. So what I have here is I have my egg whites. So I'm going to pop them into my bowl, and I'm going to just beat them first.
Yeah.
And then when I've beaten my egg whites, and they get to a certain consistency, I'm going to gradually add my caster sugar.
Perfect.
And then to make a stiff meringue so it has nice little peaks on it. People sort of still go, ooh, if you see a meringue, you know, and I, you know, if I go to a friend's house, I'll just get excited about somebody else's pavlova, you know?
Yeah.
Something about meringue. Maybe it's that childhood thing. Now, I'd say that looks about fine. So I'll just have a little look now and just see. I have a peek.
Oh, would you look?
I have a peek.
Would you look?
For the Snowy Mountain.
Oh, that's good.
That's good. So I have my 2 apples, which I have cooled down,
Right.
just to get the meringue on. So I don't use a piping bag.
Right.
So I'm just going to get spoonfuls of the meringue.
So this is where you have to make your mountain.
It's what you've got to make your mountain. You have to sort of disguise what's coming underneath. So I would imagine when we had it first in the 60s, we just thought we were getting this lovely peak of meringue, but obviously there was an apple underneath it. So you just have to disguise it. I suppose a little bit like baked Alaska. Now, I hope that'll pass muster. So I'm going to pop that in the oven now. I've just turned the oven up a little bit, so that's about sort of 170, 180, depending on your oven. Probably only about 10 minutes. And that's it. It's very simple.
That's so nice, Claire. Can't
So
wait
nice.
to taste it all.
Yeah.